In multiplayer video games, every so often you'll run into another player that pushes the limits of your abilities. In For Honor, your mastery of the game is tested the most in 1 vs 1 duels. Today, we're going to watch a best of 3 set of duels from the perspective of the Kensei, and we'll be fighting against a Highlander. Now let's get started.
Round 1.
Now, Kensei versus Highlander is hands down my all-time favorite matchup in the game. These are two characters from completely different factions, but they were cut from the same mold. They have ridiculous mix-up potential, and it's going to be exciting to see what kind of mind games come out from both players. Now, obviously, this is the first match that we're playing against one another, so we don't have to mix up too heavily to start things off, and we're not seeing anything very fancy. We landed a successful light parry and followed it up with a top light instead of a side heavy, not the maximum punish, but we were conserving a bit of stamina there. In the end, it's not going to matter because we ran out. Now, the mix-up from the Highlander's unblockables didn't come out while we were out of stamina, but we got kicked in the chest as soon as we recovered. And it's very unfortunate. Those heavy attacks deal a lot of damage. Now, at this point, both players are in the danger zone. One more hit is going to finish him off, or maybe it'll take 2. Parrying the Celtic Curse that got feinted to the side, he threw out a raw heavy attack, and we parried that as well and finished him off with a light attack. So, we're on the scoreboard, but we definitely cannot get too excited about that. The Highlander, he did not show the full potential of the character yet, and I think that's for the better. You don't want to give away all of your mix-ups, all of your strategies in the first round. Now, diving straight in, we went for a forward dashing heavy attack, and that got quickly countered with the crushing counter-strike property on all of the Highlander's light attacks. And we're done. So one of the biggest changes that was made to the Highlander at the start of Season 5 was an increase to his damage pretty much across the board. And, well, it's definitely helping because we got destroyed in under 20 seconds, I believe. So we're going into round 3. We're going to have to be a bit more cautious about how we play. We can't just throw these wild, unfeintable attacks unless we want to get punished. And I know for a fact that I'm not into sadomasochism, so I don't want to get punished by a man in a kilt with a very large sword. The Highlander, landing a guard break, tried to throw us against the wall for a bigger punish, but distance was on our side. And now we've run ourselves out of stamina. This is a pretty dangerous position to be in, but the mix-up not going to come while we're out of stamina, but again, we're getting hit by that kick and taking the damage as soon as our stamina comes back. We've got to start reacting to those kicks better. If we don't, it's going to be a very easy victory for the Highlander. Now, we tried to feint our top heavy unblockable into a side heavy, and we threw out a raw side heavy as that giant claymore was coming down. The uninterruptible stance from the Highlander's heavy attacks is going to ensure that we get put in the grave. So the score is now 1-2 in favor of our opponent. We've got an uphill battle if we want to walk away with the first match victory. Now, something that makes this matchup so exciting for me to watch and to play is that both of these characters being very mix-up intensive, you start to see more and more playstyle changes the more we fight each other. We see from myself already, the pommel strike is starting to come out. We haven't used it for the first 3 rounds, so it's definitely catching my opponent off guard a little bit. So now, in every subsequent round, whenever he sees something coming from the top, he's got to think to himself, is it going to be a top heavy, top light? An attack feinted to the side, is it going to be that pommel strike? So it's just an extra layer getting added to the cake. Now, the Highlander is pretty much on death's door. There's not much you can do with that tiny amount of health, but I've seen some crazy comebacks in For Honor. It's definitely possible to outplay your opponent, take 0 damage while you have 1 health remaining, but that's not going to happen this time. We've done a good job of climbing back from a deficit. Now this is where things start to get interesting. We landed a guard break on the startup of the Celtic Curse that gave us an opportunity to go into our mix-up, but the Highlander not having any of it. We're starting to see the pressure turned up from both players. Swords are swinging, mix-ups are coming out. Unfortunately, though, the Highlander's mix-ups get negated pretty easily by dodge attacks, and we're seeing that now. The Kensei's dodge attacks are very powerful. It is a heavy attack, so even if it does get punished, the damage that you receive in return is not too heavy, and we walk away with the victory from a top-heavy unblockable feinted to the side with a light attack. So that's going to give us the first win, but we're doing a best 2 out of 3 here. And keep in mind, this isn't some sanctioned tournament. We were just 2 players that happened to come across each other in a random solo queue for duels, and we stuck it out for 3 matches. It was a lot of fun playing with this guy. He was a very skilled Highlander, and hopefully I'm looking like a very skilled Kensei player. I'd like to believe I gave him a run for his money, but I'll let you be the judge of that. Maybe he was holding back because he knew I was recording and he wanted to make me look good. But either way, we're moving into round number 1 of match number 2. At this point, all of the foreplay is over and done with, so we can get straight into the hardcore pounding. We don't have to worry about holding back our mix-ups. We can dive straight in using the top heavy and soft feinting it into a dodge attack. That's going to net us a big lead in health early on in the round. We went for a pommel strike there, but we were way too far out of range, and we got hit with that top heavy. Trading blows with a Highlander is dangerous. Making mistakes against a Highlander is dangerous because any of his heavy attacks that connect will hurt. There's no 2 ways about it. You know, you can have a health lead and it can shrink in the blink of an eye. It's almost like we just watched that top heavy come to our face, so we really deserve the damage that we took from that. It's very unfortunate. Landing a pommel strike, though, is going to ensure us the victory for the first round. Something interesting about the Highlander is that a lot of his mix-ups get pretty much negated completely by dodge attacks, which we talked about before, but the best thing about the Highlander is that he doesn't only rely on his offensive stance. He mixes up offense and defense perfectly, and it's very exciting to fight against. It's very exciting to play. Now, we just got tossed into some fire, so you might say to yourself, things are heating up. We got caught with a caber toss, thrown to the ground, and we just took 2 unblockable heavies. The round's over. We lost. Again, I've seen crazier things happen. We did land a guard break, throw him against the wall for a top heavy, unblockable, but no, we're not making a comeback from that one. I think the heat was a little bit too much, but going back to what we were saying before about offense and defense blending together beautifully, we saw that in full effect, the Highlander using a series of feints to confuse the hell out of us. We see the Celtic Curse fast flowing into the offensive stance. He threw the top heavy unblockable, feinted, crushing counter-strike, put us in the dirt. So let's move into round number 3. Try and forget that that catastrophe ever happened. We're seeing another Celtic Curse fast flowing into the offensive stance, but no attacks are going to come out. These are the mind games being set up. He's making me think, what's going to happen next? This time it's going to be a Celtic Curse feint to the side. I wasn't ready for it, took some damage. Using the pommel strike, we haven't seen it for a little while. Getting into that top heavy unblockable, trying to get a heavy attack feint to the side, but it was a little bit too slow. The dodge recovery from the Highlander was just enough to allow him to get a block, and he throws out the kick, feints it into a caber toss, throws us to the ground, tries to chop us twice with his unblockable heavy attacks, but we are not having that. We're getting that parry on the second one. And speaking of parries, I love the Season 5 changes to the punishes that are available to players. Not being able to get a guaranteed guard break after a parry opens the door for a lot of stuff. And ooh, the superior block property on the Highlander's light attacks was mistimed, and our heavy attack is going to go straight through that and give us the victory. So we just got to win one more. That'll feel pretty good if we do, but you never know with the Highlander, man. The whole game could change in an instant. You see one play style, one round, and it flips completely in the next one because that's how deep this character's move list is. Now we're off to a very aggressive start from the Highlander, throwing out that Celtic Curse feint to get to the side and following up with a second heavy attack, which got parried. Our unblockable mix-up is going to net us a little bit of damage, but not nearly enough to completely change the game. Highlander going into offensive stance, using his emotes to flinch at us, make us a little bit scared of what's going to come next, and it's definitely working because he got some damage on us. We were going for a top heavy attack, we soft feinted it into a dodge, landed the superior block, getting the guard break that is guaranteed afterwards, and a crushing counter-strike on our light attack is going to put us in the ground, evening up the score to 2-2. Next person that wins, if it's me, that's winner takes all. I win the whole best 2 out of 3, but if it's the Highlander, then he's going to have a chance to make a comeback. Judging by the amount of time that's left in the video, you could make an assumption, but that might ruin the suspense. So let's see how this plays out. The Celtic Curse again gonna connect. We need to start being a bit more patient about how we react. We threw a top heavy attack, feinted it with a forward dash, again getting a guard break. That's proven to be a very useful technique for us that we haven't seen across the first several rounds that we've been playing. The Highlander making a very risky trade there, but in the end, I think it's going to prove to be worth it because he landed a crushing counter-strike on our zone attack. Throwing out that unblockable top heavy, it's going to connect. Looks like we might have tried to parry that. Good fight. Sorry, thanks. Okay, I done fucked up. So the Highlander is going to walk away with the victory for the second match, putting him on the scoreboard. It's now 1-1 between us. Again, we're just two random players having some fun, but best 2 out of 3. That's the only way to do it, man. You got to see who's better. According to the game's matchmaking algorithms, the Highlander is better, but I'm putting up a pretty good fight. We've gone the distance on all of our matches so far, but we're off to an awful start this time around. We have pretty much been destroyed within less than 20 seconds of the round starting. The Celtic Curse is our kryptonite at the moment. That keeps getting feinted to the side, and until I start defending against it, my opponent is going to continue using it. It might seem like spam, but that is a smart thing to do. Look, if somebody keeps making the same mistake over and over again, you capitalize on it and you take the victory. These are the moments, though, where you got to try your best not to tilt and make any stupid mistakes multiple times in a row. Hopefully we don't mess up too bad. The Celtic Curse coming out this time. It's not going to get feinted, and our dodge attack is going to connect. Now we're seeing that top heavy getting feinted with dodge attacks a lot, and it's working, so we're going to keep manipulating that as much as we possibly can. This is playing against the crushing counter-strike that the Highlander keeps going for. He's using it to either interrupt my mix-ups or to try and get the actual crushing counter to get some damage on me, and it's playing against him at the moment. And finally, a Celtic Curse going to come out, get feinted to the side, and we successfully avoided it and got the execute for the victory. So we're shaking out the hands a little bit because we're on the scoreboard, feeling a little better about ourselves. But man, it always sucks to get completely destroyed in fighting games, especially when you're playing 1 versus 1, because there is no denying that you made the mistakes. You can't blame your teammates because you have no teammates. So let's see how we do in round number 3. Landing a light attack, using the top heavy, feinting it into a dodge, but no response is going to come from a Highlander. I was anticipating a crushing counter-strike attempt that time, and it didn't come to fruition, but we are getting some big damage here with our mix-ups. The top heavy getting feinted into a side light. We messed up there and got a successful light parry through a top heavy, which is not guaranteed, but quick thinking, we soft feinted it. The Highlander knew that that top heavy was not guaranteed, so he went for a parry, but the soft feint came out fast enough for us to get the execute. That was quick thinking, and it paid dividends. Moving into round number 4, we're officially out of the honeymoon phase. We've been together for so long, we've seen it all, but we haven't seen brute force on this level. The helm splitter followed up with the uninterruptible side heavy attack, gonna make the first trade pretty even, but we're making a lot of mistakes here. Out of stamina, the taunt coming out, followed by a light attack, a kick, and then an unblockable heavy attack gonna put us in the ground. That sword looks like it hurts going in the chest. Feels bad, man, but hey, we're moving into the final round. Whoever wins this one is gonna have the 2-match victory, and they're gonna walk away with the pride. I feel like this has been a very exciting time, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed playing it and as much as I enjoyed talking through it. So enough of that mushy-gushy stuff. Let's get to chopping, hacking, and slashing. We successfully dodged the Celtic Curse, but didn't make an attempt to punish, maybe just trying to feel things out a little bit. Using the pommel strike, hard feinting the top heavy unblockable, getting a guard break from neutral, and following it up with a wall throw and a top heavy unblockable, but this was at the cost of our stamina, so we've been put in a very vulnerable position. The Highlander using the caber toss, putting his hand on my shoulder. I'm gonna call human resources if he keeps touching me like that. Using the helm splitter out of range, following it up with a side heavy, getting hit with light attacks. Oh my god, we're in the very last sliver of health. One more mistake is going to be the end of us. We went for a pommel strike. If only we had soft feinted that top heavy into a dodge, we may have just gotten a superior block on that Celtic Curse that was soft feinted to the side, or we would have just dodged it completely and been able to use a dodge attack to get the execute. Oh man, that was intense. If you didn't find yourself sliding to the edge of your seat at least one time over the course of this video, then you're a crazy person, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. On a different note, I honestly believe that this was a very phenomenal showcase of the capabilities of both the Kensei and the Highlander. Not trying to toot my own horn, but we saw some cool stuff over the course of these 3 matches. We saw the soft feints from the top heavy attack into a dash for the superior block into the guard break. That is a very, very cool thing that you can do with the Kensei to defend yourself against people that are trying to knock you out of your mix-ups, whether it's with a light attack or trying to get crushing counter strikes. You can do a lot of stuff with that. On the side of the Highlander, we saw some emotes coming out when he was in his offensive stance. I can tell you from being on the receiving end of that, it tricked my brain a little bit. Seeing somebody flinching at you, there's no icons coming out, it just gets your brain thinking, what the hell is coming next? Why is this guy flexing his muscles at me? It was definitely exciting to see that, but at the same time it was terrifying because the attacks that followed up, they hurt pretty bad. With all of that said, as always, the name of the game is For Honor. The name of the channel is iBluairJgR. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know how you felt about these matches, how you feel about the Kensei, the Highlander, For Honor in general, or you could just say hello, talk about whatever you want down there. I read it all. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.